Hey guys, Luantha here, aka Lancet634, and we've got TFT Patch 923. Um, so again, we're speeding up the videos a bit, so I'm reviewing these now, bringing up things I want to talk about, and we're trying to get these done within 10 minutes. We'll see how that goes, but let's roll on into it. So they got new little legends. They're true damage based. Pretty cool stuff. They do have a trailer out if you guys are interested in that. That's right there. So they're called Kiki, Ossia, and Melisma. It's interesting. It'll be cool to see what other options they come up with because they've got so many things to pull from. Like they can do KDA since they did true damage, obviously. So we'll see what else they come up with. But Series 5 already. Traits. So they're nerfing Glacial. 4 and 6 set. It's going to go down 5% for 4, 10% for 6. Pretty sizable nerf actually for Glacial, which, I mean, it's all about counterplay and what feels good. And playing against Glacial 6 doesn't feel good to play, and it feels like there's low counterplay. And even though if that's not true, it's just how it feels. And honestly, playing against it a bit, it feels really strong. Light is getting this is a net nerf. It's the heal from Light when the unit dies. So it used to be based off of that individual champion's health. It's now whatever is dying, that percentage of health is what's healing all of your Light units. So your tanks dying aren't going to full heal your back line anymore. And your carries in the back dying aren't going to full heal your tanks. Ocean's getting a buff, 5 more mana regen at 4, 10 more mana at 6. That's an interesting change because I feel like Ocean's actually really underrated, and that's probably going to be a very sizable buff on that. Shadow's getting a slight nerf, 5% for, I believe that's 2 Shadow, and then 15% for 4 Shadow. Honestly, it's deserved. Shadow's been very dominant from what I've seen. Not like so strong you can't beat it. Like you can beat any comp right now, which is really interesting. They've really dropped a really balanced first patch for Rise of the Elements. But this is probably a step in the right direction with Shadows. It's been a little strong, a slight hit. And then Warden's getting a buff at both 2, 4, and 6. Well, not at 6, but 2 and 4. It's getting 25% more armor for the Wardens only, which is still a lot of armor. A big change, 3-star abilities. So basically, if you hit the 3-star Jax or LeBlanc, you're going to get more damage. So Jax, LeBlanc, Nico, Syndra, Thresh's shield, Volibear's damage, Aatrox's damage, Ezreal's damage, Kindred's damage, Nautilus's stun, Nautilus's damage, and Scion's damage are all getting buffed for having a tier 3. So all their tier 3s now for going into them are better than they used to be. I'm going to jump across the numbers, honestly, but there is some good damage increases there. Interested that they buffed Syndra because I feel like she's very strong actually currently, but it is a small buff at only 75. Thresh is only getting 50 shield, but it is something. But just some interesting changes that they're pushing because there's been a lot of not pushing for 3-star champions of late, and certain ones are really good, like Lux's instant kill with her ult at tier 3, but you're never going to hit that. A lot of these are ones you're expecting to hit, or you could hit in a late game scenario, and you're going to get rewarded more for it now, which is pretty good. General champion balance. So they're nerfing Ivern for his tier 2 and tier 3. Pretty good. I mean, Druid Woodland has been a very strong early game. Like you can really just take that and snowball the game. So they're also hitting Maokai's passive healing. So whenever I believe it's a spell that hits him, I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that one. He gets his next auto heals him. Similar to his passive in regular league. Nasus's AoE around him is getting nerfed, buffed at tier 1, but nerfed at tier 3. And that bonus health is getting buffed at tier 1 again and nerfed at tier 3. So it's not terrible to have him as a tier 1 unit as much as it used to be. Talia's Max mana for casting her ult is down 5, which is really good because 85 was a weird number. So tier 1 units get 8 mana per auto, tier 2 get 10, tier 3 get 12, and just she needed 35 mana, which if you had tier 3 Talia, that means 3 autos, easy, done, awesome. Tier 2 though, it still meant 4 autos, and tier 1 is 4 autos, so getting a tier 2 Talia never sped up that ult. Now this is going to mean a tier 2 Talia is going to be able to do 3 autos and get that ult off, which it's also got an increased stun. So it's now 2 seconds instead of 1.5. Really, really strong. Anytime you buff stun damage, that's why I pointed out the Nautilus one above as an increase of 1 second for Nautilus at tier 3. But this is at all ranks till he's getting a half a second more on the stun. Vayne, this is an interesting change. They're taking power from a tier 3 Vayne and putting it into tier 1. So tier 1 Vayne is now 9%. It's 12% for tier 2 still, and tier 3 is 15. And that's interesting because the light build is all about hitting a tier 3 Vayne and stacking items on it and just letting it hard carry. That kind of nerfs that build, which, I mean, it is a tier 1 build. It's super strong, but it's now going to be a little less good. And really, it's just a straight nerf to Vayne again. No one's going to run a tier 1 Vayne, let's be honest. Vladimir is getting a nerf at tier 2 and tier 3 for both damage and the heal amount. I mean, it's pretty warranted. He's pretty strong as just a solo unit, just to fill a gap. Also being an Ocean Mage helps. Tier 2, Malzahar minions losing some health. Okay. Rek'Sai ability damage is going down 50. It's taking 50 from tier 3 and putting it into tier 1. So tier 1 Rek'Sai is a little bit better again. Skarner's mana is going down 10 per ult cast. That's a really big number for Skarner, though. If I'm correct, Skarner does the shield. So that's interesting because he'll be able to cast it more often, and that's also more attack speed because I believe it grants attack speed too. Skarner is also getting 5 more armor. So a lot of Skarner buffs here. Interesting. I don't think he was that far out of the meta, but he was definitely a weak unit. Thresh's ability shield, not only is the tier 3 getting that 200 shield buff, tier 2 is getting 100, and tier 1 is also getting 50. So Thresh is just overall getting a buff, and I think he's strong already, because being able to just drop a shield on people is huge. So really, I mean, that's a really good buff for Thresh. And all the builds using that. Yasuo ability hits. This is another big one. They're taking power off of tier 3 Yasuo and putting it on tier 1. So, I mean, you can run a tier 1 Yasuo, but tier 2 is where your prime is, and tier 3, if you're making a carry Yasuo, is now just going to be weaker, which is unfortunate. Because you could do some really nutty things with 7 hits of on-hit passive, because his ability does proc on-hit, for those of you that didn't realize. Tier 3 Ezreal mana is now down 10, so it's 30 mana a cast. So if you have a tier 2 Ezreal and you have a Seraphs on it, he's got to fire his ult, get 20 mana from Seraphs. Next auto, it's back to 30, fires it. So he's just doing an auto Q the entire time. Really strong. That's also with the ability cast time going down. He's going to output a lot more damage. I want to see some more Ezreal carries because his ult got buffed too for damage at tier 3. So Ezreal carry actually might be a legit thing now, especially with some of these other nerfs that are coming in and some other buffs to other AD carries. So Ashe is getting attack speed buff, really big on Ashe. It's one of the big rangers that you play. Brand's also getting a buff, again, pulling damage off tier 3, putting it into tier 1. He loses 50 at tier 3, but a tier 1 Brand is going to get a 300 damage ult with 5 bounces now. They just straight up buffed the bounces at tier 1 to 5 from 4. Malphite's getting 50 more health. Okay, hopefully he survives the ult because I've seen tier 1 Malphites just get blown up. Olaf mana, he's going to take 15 more mana to ult, which is huge. It gives a larger window to kill him than it previously was. Plus, they're nerfing Glacial, so this is a pretty big smack onto Olaf here. Obviously, a very good carry that you can play with and play around and build around, but it's going to be harder to execute because I don't believe you really ran any mana on him. You tried to build like a Bloodthirster and a Rageblade, but now you're going to be out of mana, so you're going to need to compensate for somewhere or plan for that extra time to stack that up. York schools are getting hard nerfed. Not surprised about this. They lose 0.1 attack speed. They're losing 150 health at tier 1, 250 at tier 2, and 350 at tier 3. So huge York nerfs, and I think that's because York has just been so strong as a solo unit. I could have told you this when the patch dropped within like 2 days that York was going to need a nerf because it just felt really, really strong, and apparently they agree. And the numbers must back me up too. Tier 5, so Singed, losing 100 health. He's actually surprisingly tanky for just being a guy that runs around in your backline and poisons everything. They're also nerfing his tier 1 and tier 2 ability damage, so a lot of nerfs hitting Singed, and this is after he's been nerfed on before hitting live. They nerfed him going from PvE to live, I believe, too. So, lo and behold, having no unit collision and just being able to run through enemy units and stuff is really strong, and they're still trying to figure out how to balance that. It doesn't help that there's only 4 poison units, and one, like, you either have Cogmore or Twitch, and you definitely use one or the other. You never use both, so it's kind of also the synergy. And you have to run Singed, and Singed is just a great unit. So this is a little bit less good for Singed. Tark getting 50 more health, hopefully so he gets his ult off. I've had many a tragic Tark ult never go off because he dies mid-ult, and it's so sad. So that's it for champions. We've got some item changes. They're nerfing Frozen Heart. It's losing 10% of that attack speed slow, so instead of 35, it's 25. That's a pretty big deal. Frozen Heart doing a lot of work. GA, you can't be healed while resurrecting. That's more of a bug fix, but still it's notable, which is why it's here. Iceborne's also losing some of that attack speed slow from 35 to 25, and I think a lot of that's centered around if you see an Iceborne Gauntlet Jax in a cloud zone on a cloud space, like the whole zone's covered in Iceborne Gauntlet and no one's attacking. It's super slow. So this is just an overall speed up, so it just doesn't feel terrible. Ionic Spark is losing 10 damage again. Ionic Spark is a conundrum. I don't know. It's got its uses, and it's really good in a lot of comps. Hopefully that damage nerf brings it a little out of being so strong, because it always feels like it's really strong. And it's like sneakily strong, because you just don't pay attention to how much damage it's throwing out. But it's throwing out a lot every spell cast. And then the big thing with this patch, ranked is on. So you can now go climb. Everyone's back in Iron, apparently. So whoop-de-doo, we'll be doing some climbing on stream in the coming days, weeks. But the changes they've made are you don't lose LP for the first 5 games. That's kind of standard for ranked in League. But you don't lose LP if you get 4th or better now. So if you are miles ahead on MMR to your opponent, you're not going to lose any LP for finishing 4th. Even if like you're plat and everyone's bronze, you will still get at least 0. Note you won't lose LP. 0 is not losing, so you can get 0. So that's a cool change, because people used to be losing LP for 4th and it felt horrible. But I mean, don't queue with people that are really low rank than you, or just become big brain and be number 1 on the ladder. That works too. So a ton of bug fixes here, and so we got some melee unit pathing. Invisible woodland units no longer add the trait bonus. That was super easy to reproduce and really strong. It's like a free win. All summons are considered 0-star. PvE monsters, small monsters considered 1. That's big for Vygar. All the other buffs are considered 3, so Vygar is one-shotting them. That's good. Ranged Berserkers now proper deal damage in a cone. It's on their target instead of themselves. So Berserker's Vayne is actually a thing for it actually works as intended. There's a height bug on one of the tiles in Freljord arenas. That's fixed. I've seen that one. Electric trait no longer benefits from AP. That's a huge change. I'm surprised they didn't move it up, actually. That really hurts electric, because that was really strong. Diana's orbs hitting multiple targets can't happen. Cog ability to adjust to miss far less often, so straight up cog buff. Renekton's ability proper deals magic damage. Healing text on Vlad to show the proper amounts. Higher his attack speed and duration now match their intended targets. And Zyrus plants, thankfully, will no longer hop to your bench and be there forever. Tier 2 champions, Malzahar fixes. His minions now match his attack speed ratio, which is actually a reduction. It was matching something else. Won't get into that one. Volibear's ability now restores him to full mana if a non-execute cast kills the target. Okay, so if he casts it, doesn't kill, restores him to full. Oh, so if he casts it like mid-cast they die, it restores him so he gets to cast it again since it's a bite. Okay. So basically saves as an ult if it dies mid-cast time. That's pretty nice. Nazir now has better summoning soldiers, won't target plants that can't take damage. Mundo won't cast his ability when there's nothing in range that it could hit. That's actually kind of a nerf because his ability heals him. Kiana won't cast her ability when there's nothing in range it could hit. That's good. Clarify Vygar. It's now also non-champions for Vygar's ability, so it won't kill small jungle minions, PvE minions. Its ability now executes non-champions at their star levels below, so it can work on monsters and it can work on Annie Bear and all those summonables. So look out, Tibbers, he's coming. Tier 4, Annie's no longer getting mana if she summons. Can no longer gain mana if she summons 2 Tibbers, then one of them dies. Okay, so yeah, that's Mage Cap Annie. All right. Ash's 3-star scaling. So they fixed Ash's 3-star scaling. Ash couldn't proc Blade Master while her ability is active. That's actually a huge fix too. All of it singed, looking like they were glacial even though they're still attacking. That's funny. So that's just a clarity fix. Champions take damage from multiple poison trails. So if you have 2 singed and they cross, it's double damage. Zed's clones now properly attribute damage to Zed and damage tracker, so instead of just seeing damage tracker and be saying Zed, 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 it's just going to say Zed and a total of damage. Items, Dragon's Claw is going to reduce a lot of... It's going to reduce all trait damage from non-ability effects too, so all magic damage reduction on that. Slight buff to to almost the worst item in the game, guaranteed at this point. Iceborne Gauntlet, attack speed slow. They fixed it persisting through rounds. I've seen that. Inferno Cinder now works on empowered auto attacks and the such. So you can have a Vayne proc her passive and have an Inferno drop below them. That's pretty cool. Spatula now no longer double the non-spatula component sets. Oh, so they used to still, and now they're not. So this was supposed to be gone last patch. That's really big, actually. Wow. And then Talisman the Light actually grants them MR finally. Apparently it just gave light, and that was awkward. Alright, so that's everything in TFT 923. It's a big one. It's the first one before the ranked season kicks off. They're really just, there's a lot of fine-tuning, but they actually dropped something in a pretty good state initially, so not too much work. But let me know what you guys think. I'm really hyped because they put Ezreal here. And that's because, Ezreal is like actually going to be really strong now. My first team I'm going to build, if I can, is going to be a Ezreal carry build because he looks so strong. He's going to proc so many Qs. It's going to be so glorious. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content. And I'll see you guys for 924.